BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and given I keep falling asleep to The Bachelor, only to wake up later and eventually have to start talking about The Bachelor, I'm doing a video that's not too long but also not too short. If I was in charge of the Bachelor franchise, what changes would I make to the Bachelor and Bachelorette shows? No Paradise or Golden Bachelor? Remember, I'm more of a casual fan, so now that I started watching a few series a few years ago, and granted, it's been an interesting experience watching the scandals, drama, chaos, toxicity, and more chaos alongside the few times the show had people there for love. And there are scenes that have ranged between solid and great, with the romantic, chaotic, and drama-filled, which is great at times, but you need a balance between romance and drama, otherwise you're just here for the train wreck. And with Jenn's season, alongside the possibility the Bachelorette isn't continuing, and confirmation that from last night's episode, the Bachelor isn't rebranding until later in the year, most likely. Grant's season being a little weird for me to follow since I kept falling asleep so much. Not its show fault, I'm just tired. And looking back on some recent seasons that caused controversy, I just wanted to make a fun list of changes I'd make to the Bachelor franchise if I was watching. I'd like to get this out when the season finale airs, but let's just get started with the list. The first change I'd make is to cut the cast size down. I, like most people, I don't necessarily think the problem is the length of the seasons, even though I can make an argument it should be 10 to 11 weeks instead of just 8 or 9, because there are studies that show it can probably take up to 3 months for someone to fall in love, and extra time would solidify that. But I honestly think there's way too many contestants in a season. And when I'm saying a roster isn't big enough, there's a problem. Well, it's too big. To be fair, I actually think they made the smart choice following Jenn's season, but I honestly think that going from 32 to 25 wasn't enough, and a number really should go down to 18. Now, The Bachelor is always going to have people that get eliminated first, who are at least going to be memorable, or half the people talking about why they get eliminated. Like, this happens almost every season. But the contestants are just as part of the show as the lead is, and when you have too many people, it ends up with half the audience not even remember who some of the people are, which especially is telling when you get to the women tell all and men tells all, when you notice that there's some people talking where it's like, who the heck were those guys? Granted, I do try to remember everyone, and I do feel bad, but still. Cutting it down to less than 20 would actually allow us to understand more of the members of the cast and understand their struggles so we actually grow to care about them. Usually when the cast size is too big, like look at Matt James' season, where the drama ends up endearing us to characters who either stay out of it or are more so victims. The downside is that there's way too much going on to the point where anyone could be a hero or villain, where if you just give us a size that's not too big or small, even some of the first boots will become more manageable, and production could actually edit the cast. So not only do we understand them more, but it actually feels like we actually understood their journeys and what worked and what didn't. Taking a break from the cast, I think that some of the group dates need to be more memorable. Like, I cannot tell you for the life of me if there was a season where the sport date was a sport that wasn't basketball, football, tennis, all across. Ironically, the paintball dates are more fun. Like, I remember the one from Joey's season where they basically had to do paintball, capture the flag. And that was super fun, especially with Edwina doing her absolute best. And even Jenn got moments to shine that would eventually get her picked for the lead. Speaking of Jenn, when it comes to casting, can we please get, like, more Asian people? This isn't me having, like, some fetish or anything. Like, I genuinely believe that The Bachelor's lack of Asian representation is kind of weird. Like, yeah, I can remember a few, like, Serena, Aaron, and Braden contestants, all of whom were memorable in their own right, especially since the only successful Bachelor for now was Sean, who married an Asian woman in Catherine. I know recently there have been a few more since, like Joey's season has had 4 women in the top 10, Leah Cannon and Rachel Nance, the latter who also received racial hate online, who are both Filipino-American, and then you have Jenn and Caitlyn, who are Vietnamese-American. Like, I know the rumor and argument is that Jenn only became the Bachelorette because Daisy and Maria said no, but I can still remember some things they did from Joey's season. Hell, Caitlyn was super underrated as a personality. Like, I love the tennis date where she was like, it's so intimidating having so many balls flying at you. Like, that was funny, and that endeared me to them. And yet, they didn't hold casting back, so there were more Asian and Asian American men who wanted to get cast. Like, you're telling me you only cast one person who didn't even know the show as much? Like, what gives? Plus, you have all types of Asians. You have South Asians, East Asians, and even then you have small categories in there. You have Taiwanese people, Vietnamese, Japanese, South Korean, and unfortunately, we do live in a climate where we only see certain Asians, that's just one whole collective group, when there's way more variety and diversity than that. But thanks to a lot of bad faith actors on the internet, some Asian women are treated as a better alternative and a submissive option for men, when in real life, a lot of Asian women have talked about how it's hard for them to date because some are seen as less desirable and others barely value as human, which is so sad when you think about it, especially given what happened on Jenn's season. Like, if you don't believe me, go on YouTube and type in Wong Fu Productions, Asian Bachelor or Bachelorette. They actually brought on old contestants who also happen to be Asian just to show how limited the number is, and actually got some pretty famous Asian stars outside of the show, like Timothy DeLaGhetto. Like, the first Asian Bachelor video was so funny because I remember a lot of people saying that Ethan should have been the next Bachelor, given what happened with Nate on Gabby's season. You had Joseph from season 16, Pardeep from season 18, and Ivan also from Tayshia and Claire's season. I'm going to put the link in either the description for the video or in the comment section, but I really want you guys to check out both videos because it's really, really funny, but they also make some very valid points. Plus, look at another popular reality TV franchise, Big Brother. Yes, it's also had a limited number of Asian contestants, but at the very least, now they're up to 2 to 3 out of 16, which isn't great, but at least most of all of them in the recent modern era have been memorable in some degree, especially lately. Matt was an iconic first boot who played like a complete doofus, but at least you remember him. And apparently his relationship with Mackenzie is still going well, which, hey, good for them. Kimo was a sweetheart despite taking way too long to actually make a valid move in the game with T-Core. And he's one of the few people to actually have his eviction speech be strong enough to get him saved from elimination. Rubina had her showmance with Tucker and was honestly a pretty endearing and likable figure. Jack became the first Indian and Sikh winner of Big Brother in 25. Blue was iconic, delusional, chaotic, also made some good points at time, also had no one in her alliance actually back her up, but was way more mature in a relationship than her partner had any right to be. Nicole was a major villain who got turned on by the girl but she thought she could manipulate and mistreat, but eventually learned her lesson after getting eliminated and is now a better person. Meanwhile, Joseph got to be one of the most likable and well-beloved people from 24 with the showmance with the winner. And Derek X is a king who almost won America's favorite player. Plus, Hannah is half Asian, half black, and is one of the more beloved members of the cast. As long as you avoid Facebook, of course. Video on the Asian modern representation of Big Brother. I'll save that video for May. So, yeah, cast more Asian people, especially for either the leads or the contestants. Because if we get another lead of Asian descent, I do not want what happened with Jenn that leads me to my next point. Do not start casting until The Bachelor for the next season gets announced. Part of the problem with Jenn's season, besides the weird lack of Asian men, was that most of the men had applied for either Daisy or Maria because they had expected her to be the next Bachelorette. And considering that barely anyone was there for her, and even the villain had a point in admitting it compared to some of the other guys, yeah, that was not a good look. Especially when the winner of the season broke up with her and went for Maria on Instagram. Like, I realized how bad Sam was later on, but I always had red flags about Devin, and I hate being right about that. With Grant, they announced him early so he doesn't have that big of a risk from what seems like most of the women were there for him. But I don't want this to ever happen again. Let people know who the Bachelor or Bachelorette is, then start opening up casting. And try to diversify the cast. It's really telling when the people from Jenn's season that were the most iconic were the big fun guy, Hakeem being the lovable goofball, Grant, and Jonathan being the only one of the final 3 that was actually into her. I really feel bad for the bachelors and bachelorettes who are coming onto the show for love, and the people who are actually trying to get with them don't actually give a damn or are only there for followings, which is fine if you want to get followings, but you also should be there for love too. See, apparently, there's this rule saying that the leads can't stop someone from interrupting them. Yeah, no, bye-bye with that rule. Cutting that rule, something Zach tried to do but learned the hard way that he couldn't, would actually make the drama be more interesting, because if the leads were actually having allowed their own agency to either shut it down, that would actually end up either improving their likability or giving us more characterization towards them. Because according to other Bachelor fans, people like Becca had to compromise and be like, hey, give me like 5 minutes with him and then I'll come find you. Which, fair, is a more mature way to handle it, I will say. But every time this happens, it's usually from someone who's already had enough screen time, and at some point, like, the lead should be allowed to just put their foot down and say, hey, I'm trying to grow my connection with this person too and see if there's something there. Like, can you just be patient? Fire any producer responsible for not vetting the contestants. Yeah, I don't know what's been going on, but ever since I started, I've noticed a Bachelor productions crew have been doing a piss poor job of protecting their leads from some serious toxic people that shouldn't even have been on the show in the first place. Apparently, the first Black Rachel season had a known racist on the cast for being the first Black Bachelorette. Then you had what happened with Matt's season, where his final choice was a woman who went to slave antebellum parties, and no one responsible for checking the backgrounds found that out until halfway through the show, when it was leaked by fans who knew what was going on or had a feeling and did their research. Then Jenn's final choice, an evil diet Pete Davidson in Devon, turned out to have a restraining order placed on him, which is apparently a big no-no for the show, which makes it even more dumber and insane that he was cast. If a producer does not have the lead's best interest at mind, they'd best be putting off their resignation letter instead. For my 8th choice, one thing I would seriously consider is bringing back multiple contestants who are voted out early and giving them a second chance, but at the start of their season. Because Blake Moniz proved older contestants can make all the way to the end and not be too controversial. Usually whenever the Bachelor or Bachelorettes pick a new lead, it's based off whoever was in the top 8 of the season, or an outsider in rare exceptions. But people have talked for years about certain people were great choices that the leads kind of overshadowed or overlooked. Brett from Jen's season is a great example, since he ended up being one of those popular despite being a first boot. How Clayton had a Hurricane Sandy survivor who was accepted to 7 Ivy League schools in Daria Rose, and she got eliminated in first week, well, because no screen time or chance. If you reduce the cast and give people a second chance, it would actually be a great opportunity to engage in what people consider past contestants who had a really good connection and build their trust with production and still be willing to partake in the show and get a second chance at love outside of paradise. For my 9th choice, I would want them to try the double Bachelor/Bachelorette season again, but learn from the mistakes of the last one. Okay, if you're going to have 2 leads and double the romance, you need a smaller cast so that the double dates and relationships actually feel like there's time for both leads to get the focus. More double dates for 1v1s, actually have the competing guys in a lane at the start, and make the group dates about who's going to spend more time, and whoever can't pick a lane would get eliminated on the spots. And finally, have an LGBTQ lead or plus-size lead. Not only did Bachelor seasons from other countries had bisexual leads in the past, a contestant from Bachelor Vietnam revealed she also had feelings for another female contestant and was about to walk off the show with them, and apparently they got married, which is pretty awesome in and of itself. Plus, past people like Demi and Gabby have come out and are still beloved and invited back. If we had a lead from the jump that was queer, I think it'd be a gamble that'd pay off. And as for plus size, again, we all love Brett, so why not? And that's my list, so thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off.